Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, February 18th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Just one day after reopening, the county announced the Petco Park vaccination superstation will close again tomorrow. KPBS reporter John Carroll says it's an uneven picture when it comes to getting a vaccine.
San Diego County's largest vaccination superstation will go dark again tomorrow. You'll recall the Petco Park site had to shut down Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of this week. The county says anyone with an appointment during the closure should check for an email as to when that appointment will be rescheduled. But it's not just Petco. Here at the Municipal Gym in Balboa Park, they are set up and ready to do a lot of vaccinations. But on a day when we have beautiful clear skies and relatively warm temperatures, it is instead the horrible weather back east that's controlling the situation. When might we get adequate supplies of vaccine from Pfizer and Moderna, located in Michigan and Massachusetts? Ask Mother Nature.
We're going to continue to see this kind of thing until the supply chain issues get ironed out, until the weather calms down, until we have more inventory.
Mayor Todd Gloria was speaking at the Malcolm X Library in Valencia Park, where people were getting vaccinated today.
Using our firefighters, we're trying to fill in some of the gaps. So you're seeing this first pop-up event here in Southeast San Diego, again, the second highest zip code in the city in terms of COVID infection. But what you're not seeing is the fact that we have mobile units that are going to some of our senior complexes and some of our hard-hit communities like City Heights.
The bigger picture? The superstation at Cal State San Marcos is offering second doses only. The superstations in Chula Vista and La Mesa have enough Pfizer vaccine for the time being to keep operating, but they're rescheduling people who have appointments to get the Moderna vaccine. The Del Mar superstation will stay open at least through this weekend. The shortage in supply is reflected on the county's vaccination appointment site. There are a few available here and there, but as you scroll down the page, most of what you see is no appointments available. 3 frustrating words as not just San Diego, but much of the country waits for the shots that save lives. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And we have more information at kpbs.org. Just click on the Vaccines tab on our homepage. You'll find a searchable map with clinic locations and links to make an appointment if you're eligible. Many parents want their kids back in class, and San Diego County is getting closer to that reality. Today, California lawmakers just announced a $6.5 billion school reopening plan to get kids back in classrooms this spring. County public health departments would be required to offer vaccinations to school staff who return to in-person classes. Just yesterday, the county's case rate dipped to 22 cases per 100,000 people. The state requires that threshold to stay below 25 per 100,000 for 5 straight days. And at that point, it is up to the school districts if they decide to reopen.
Obviously, everyone needs to be safe and wear masks, but the kids need to be together. They need to be having full-time instruction with teachers.
And I'm just worried that, being Zoom at home and being cooped up all the time, they're not getting the help they need.
A rally was held at Sunset View Elementary this morning with parents and students demanding it be reopened. Middle and high schools will take even longer to reopen because they have to wait until the county's case rate falls below 7 per 100,000 residents. The White House announced a sweeping immigration reform that would grant a path to citizenship to more than 11 million immigrants living in the United States. As Nadia Romero explains, the bill's fate rests in the hands of a narrowly divided Congress.
There is a reasonable path to citizenship.
The White House now unveiling its vision for that path. The U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021 calls for an 8-year pathway to citizenship for the more than 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the United States before January 1st of this year. It will reach the Senate next week, where it faces an uphill battle.
We intend to work together to pass fair immigration legislation that strengthens America.
The framework of the legislation streamlines the pathway for undocumented immigrants, including farm workers, and for the so-called dreamers brought to the country as children. The bill also calls for funding to help clear asylum backlog, increasing the number of the so-called diversity visas, and increasing penalties for employers who knowingly hire undocumented immigrants. A $4 billion investment plan will address root causes of immigration, as well as enhancing technology and infrastructure at the border. The Biden administration describes the legislation as a start to the conversation on immigration reform.
We will never win an argument that we don't have the courage to make. We will do the righteous thing and make our case for bold, inclusive, and lasting.
Now, how it happens through the legislative process remains to be seen, but it is a priority, and we will be working on it.
In Washington, Nadia Romero, KPBS News.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria praised the bill, saying it incorporates many of the priorities he outlined in a letter sent to the Biden administration and congressional leadership, among them providing a pathway to citizenship and keeping families together. Tomorrow, starting right here at the San Diego-Tijuana border, the Biden administration will begin to allow thousands of asylum seekers to re-enter the U.S. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us they were sent back to Mexico under the controversial Remain in Mexico program.
Just 2 years after the first asylum seeker was sent back to Mexico under the Migrant Protection Protocols, also known as Remain in Mexico, the program is now beginning to unwind under the Biden administration. First launched by the Trump administration to curb asylum in the U.S., the program sent back asylum seekers to live in dangerous border cities, to wait while attending court hearings in the U.S. to see if they'd win their asylum claim. Joyce Noche is a lawyer with the Immigrant Defenders Law Center, which has provided representation to some of these asylum seekers.
Most, if not, I'd say the majority of MPP respondents were, without any stable housing. They were living in shelters. There have been makeshift shelters around border towns in these very, unstable, unsafe, and sometimes violent conditions, and having to deal that on a daily basis while also trying to essentially fight for your life, for your family's life in an immigration court in the United States.
Last month, the Biden administration ended new admissions for the program. And on Friday, the first asylum seekers in the program will be processed at the San Ysidro Port of Entry to continue their asylum claims from inside the United States. To register, asylum seekers must go online and fill out a form. They'll be processed in order of who first entered the Remain in Mexico program, which sent over 65,000 asylum seekers back to Mexico.
On Monday, people just started coming to our offices. We had Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I think 347 people arrive at our office seeking information.
Kelly Overton helps run Border Kindness, an organization that provides assistance to asylum seekers in Mexicali, many of whom were sent back under Remain in Mexico.
What we have done is hopefully prepare them to be able to access the website that our understanding is goes live tomorrow. And we've done that by putting together sheets that explain to people how to access the website, what they're going to be asked, what information they need, and then distributing those sheets throughout the community.
The U.S. government says it will only process a few hundred people a day across the border, eventually ramping up in coming weeks. Right now, the application is only open to those who still have cases open in the program. Those who have already lost their asylum cases or had them closed don't qualify and might have had their fate decided by a program the U.S. no longer supports. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
Tonight, Supervisor Chair Nathan Fletcher is delivering his first State of the San Diego County address. The virtual event will include a speech from Fletcher as well as pre-recorded messages. It will be interpreted into American Sign Language, Spanish, Vietnamese, Filipino, Chinese, and Arabic. You can watch it live at 7 o'clock on our website, kpbs.org. Padres star shortstop Fernando Tatis Jr. is $340 million richer. No, he didn't win the lotto, but he did hit the Padres up for the jackpot. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says fans are excited about what the future holds for the 22-year-old.
What was my initial, reaction? I'll probably get into that, at greater detail a little bit more later, but just pure excitement, happiness.
Padres manager Jace Tingler says Fernando Tatis Jr. is a true competitor who inspires his teammates with his work ethic. Through 143 games, he's put up 39 home runs with 27 stolen bases.
Fernando Tatis Jr. Get to know that name.
Being consistent every day and then showing up and performing well, and treating people very well. The team and teammates buy in very quickly.
Tatis's reported 14-year, $340 million contract is not finalized just yet, but it's on track to be the longest and one of the most valuable in baseball history.
I saw his debut with my dad.
Jack from Menifee was touring Petco Park with his family today. He's an Angels fan and a Padres fan.
National League and then American League.
He's excited about the idea of Tatis Jr. playing shortstop for the Padres through the next decade.
He's getting a lot of money, but he is really good.
Other Padre fans like Tony Trin are picking up their Tatis jerseys from the team store while they still can.
I'm so hyped. I'm a huge Tatis fan. I've been saying it since he's been here that he needs to be a lifetime Padre. I'm super stoked for it.
Fans like Michelle Frost say big moves like this proves that Padres ownership is serious about bringing a championship to San Diego.
So I'm really happy for the community and all of the families out there, and it's going to be something that kids can enjoy, and it's going to cross generations.
Tingler says Tatis's talent is undeniable and says he can be one of those once-in-a-lifetime players. Fans definitely think that he is.
It's the joy that he has playing baseball, and people connect with that. And I think that's why we're all so excited, and that, this really has the opportunity and the potential to be another Tony Gwynn situation. We love Tony so much, and Trevor, and it's just going to be nice to have another, superstar.
Many we talked to were hopeful that they will be able to see Tatis play in person this upcoming season. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Starting on March 1st, 5 cities in San Diego County will be getting a bit greener. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says a new government agency formed to speed up the transition to renewable energy will officially start serving customers.
Director Montgomery? Here. Director Dedina?
Here. Like most everyone else these days, the governing board of San Diego Community Power meets via Zoom. At the start of each meeting, they pledge to a picture of the American flag on their screens.
With liberty and justice for all.
SDCP is a community choice energy program. It's not quite a utility, it doesn't own power lines, but soon it will be responsible for purchasing wholesale electricity on behalf of customers in San Diego, Chula Vista, Encinitas, La Mesa, and Imperial Beach. On March 1st, it will start powering city buildings like libraries and police stations. It'll start serving businesses in June, followed by homes in 2022.
Frankly, most people probably won't even notice that we're here.
Cody Hooven is SDCP's chief operating officer.
If they look at their bill, they'll see a new line item with our name on it for the cost of generation of power.
Hooven is hoping their bills will be lower than under SDG&E. But the biggest change SDCP will bring is a massive boost in clean energy. 55% of its electricity will be carbon-free, compared with SDG&E's 31%. Customers can also opt to pay a little more for 100% clean energy. Chula Vista City Council member and SDCP board member Steve Padilla says this is the central mission: accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels.
It impacts everything, including public health. It impacts costs in the long run. It impacts penetrating costs for businesses, industrial, commercial clients, and of course, residential clients. But most of all, it allows folks to really begin to reduce that footprint a lot sooner and a lot more broadly by offering that choice and incentivizing that market.
San Diego Community Power has fought hard to get to this point, and SDG&E hasn't exactly been an ally. The utility's parent company spent years lobbying against SDCP's creation. Just last year, Hooven recalls her decision to hire a law firm to double-check SDG&E's rates.
I was a little nervous to hire this firm, and do I need to spend this money? We're a startup, so we think about every dollar we spend. And right off the bat, they dug deep into the rates and found an $85 million math error that ratepayers would have otherwise been charged.
Let me repeat that. SDG&E was set to overcharge customers by $85 million. SDG&E fixed the mistake before anyone was charged, and Hooven doesn't think it was intentional, but she says it does show the utility can make mistakes.
To me, it really showed the value that we bring to the table of just making sure that ratepayers are protected and that we're checking things for them.
SDG&E says it's committed to working with SDCP and to a future with 100% clean energy. Right now, SDCP is busy preparing for its Phase 1 launch next month, but as it grows to serve more customers, it plans to do a lot more than just buy electricity. Matthew Vasilakis is co-director of policy for the nonprofit Climate Action Campaign. He sees the potential for a host of new programs.
Incentivizing rooftop solar for low-income communities, community solar for communities of concern, finding ways to really get our energy system back in our own backyards so that we don't have to deal with the power safety shutoffs that happen when the backcountry's on fire. So the more that we can start building local infrastructure incentivized by SDCP with our own revenue, the better off we're going to be in terms of building out our 100% clean energy future.
Hooven says aside from offering cleaner and cheaper energy, the new power agency hopes to be more transparent and accessible than SDG&E.
Businesses, residents can come to our board meetings virtually now or in person. They can talk to their elected officials and share what they think about their rates, about programs that we can offer, about what we're doing well, what we should be doing better. So we hope to make energy a much more open concept for people and let them engage more than they probably have in the past.
The pressure is on to get things right. When it's fully up and running, SDCP will be the second largest agency of its kind in California, and people across the state will be watching to judge its success. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
There's a humanitarian crisis happening right now in Texas. For the 5th consecutive day, hundreds of thousands of people are without power and millions don't have access to clean water. Daryl Forges is in Houston with the latest.
It's hard. The shelters are at capacity. There's no hotels anywhere.
People in Texas fighting to survive.
It's horrible. It's just like, it's very survival mode.
Hundreds of thousands without power.
It's 40-something degrees in our homes.
In frigid temperatures.
We had no firewood left, and we started using things in the house to keep the fire going. And seeing my 2 sleeping babies under a bunch of blankets in front of the fireplace that was slowly going out was heartbreaking.
Many sleeping in warming centers, furniture stores, or cars, just to fight the freeze.
It's uncomfortable, as you can imagine.
In addition to the power crisis, there's now a water crisis, the brutal cold bursting pipes.
So we're scrambling, trying to figure out, how do we turn this water off.
Others,
I'll take it. Thank you so much.
without any water.
It's unfortunate, a lot of people without water, so we're doing what we can.
Gas.
50 miles I had to drive to get these 2 gallons so I can run a generator overnight.
Or food.
It's very stressful to be in a cold house, and if you're in a cold house, you're definitely not eating any warm food. Then when you go out, you can't find food.
Unrelenting winter storms are sweeping east across the United States, including Texas, bringing more risk of misery and death.
I'm nervous.
In Houston, Daryl Forges, KPBS News.
In Texas, Senator Ted Cruz is facing backlash after social media posts surfaced showing him boarding a plane to Cancun while his constituents are in crisis. The Republican senator flew back to Houston this afternoon. Congress is not in session right now, and Cruz said his daughters wanted to take a trip with friends and he wanted to be a good dad. Cruz also said he's in constant communication with state and local leaders.
we're looking at a little bit of a change in the pattern as we go through the next few days because we're going to be introducing some cooler air as we head into the weekend. It's also going to mean a few extra clouds coming through. So we'll start to see that trend even a little bit into tomorrow, but more so as we get into Saturday. Tonight, temperatures falling back into the 30s here for many locations, even 44 in Borrego Springs. Not too bad as we keep things largely clear, fairly quiet. And again, we await some of that cool air to try to work its way in. Now, still dry. That's the good news. In fact, even as we get some of that cool air moving in, we won't be impacted by the rain. All of that staying to the north here with rain and snow showers far away from us. So for tomorrow, again, a few clouds in a couple of spots, but overall still a relatively dry day, or rather a dry day, and a relatively cloud-free day as we try to introduce some more of that moisture. 65 in Oceanside, Borrego Springs coming in at 72, and as you look at Chula Vista, basically back into the upper 60s as we head through the day. Saturday, though, signs of that cool air on its way, so things are starting to change a little bit for us as far as their numbers are concerned. And in fact, we'll manage to only make it to the lower to mid 60s as we head through Saturday. There's those extra clouds too that we're talking about. Then by Sunday, trying to cruise back into the lower 70s towards the coast and maybe even mid 70s by Monday. So it's kind of a short-lived period here where you kind of get that cooler influence. Inland locations, you're noticing the same thing, mid 60s for your Saturday. Beyond that, though, warming back up towards 82 on Monday. So there is a big warm up in our future once we look past the weekend, where temperatures go back into the upper or the lower and mid 50s in the mountains, especially as we head towards the later part of the week, or into the middle of next week, I should say. And for the deserts, we've got temperatures holding on to the 70s. Really, again, fairly mild conditions over the next couple of days, eventually making it to the mid 80s towards the middle of next week. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
A new warning from top U.S. health officials about coronavirus variants. As Mandy Gaither tells us, new reports suggest those mutations could lead to a rapid rise in cases if Americans become complacent.
All eyes on the highly contagious coronavirus variants as more mutations are identified in the U.S.
I know these variants are concerning, especially as we're seeing signs of progress. I'm talking about them today because I am concerned too.
While COVID-19 cases are falling in the U.S., 2 new reports by the CDC warn the variants could cause a rapid rise in COVID-19 cases. In one report, researchers from the CDC and Minnesota Health Department detailed cases of the variant first identified in the UK. Earlier modeling data suggested this variant, which may be more transmissible, could become the predominant variant in the United States in March. And officials are urging people to take action to reduce spread.
When your turn to get vaccinated comes up, get vaccinated. It's not only good for you and your family and your community, it will have a very important impact on the dynamics of the outbreak in our country.
Dr. Anthony Fauci is now saying it'll be May or June before all Americans could have access to COVID vaccines. Originally, he said it would be April. However, the rollout of Johnson & Johnson's single-dose COVID vaccine will be much slower than expected because of a production miscommunication. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Conservationists say San Diego's nature preserves are threatened by pollution and homeless encampments, so they're holding regular cleanups. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne followed volunteers in Oceanside as they take matters into their own hands.
As of this morning, the Buena Vista Lagoon, a preserve right behind a large shopping center that people frequent all the time, was full of trash and homeless encampments. Today, organizations and volunteers have joined forces to take some of that trash out and make it a cleaner North County.
The Buena Vista Lagoon is nestled between home developments and shopping centers. Mario Quinones, a private canyon ranger in the area, describes what he often encounters.
Down right over here on the riverbed, you'll see most of the trash that the homeless bring in, anywhere from furniture, fencing, mattresses, couches, to as little as just our common trash.
With trash bags and tongs in hand, volunteers entered the canyon to do their part and clean up what they can.
I've been volunteering on my own, just picking up trash where I see it. And once you start doing that, your mind stops tuning it out, and you realize just how big of a problem it is.
A problem that Colby Schexnayder couldn't ignore and established a Cleaner North County, an organization that now organizes cleanups throughout North County. Today, Schexnayder collaborated with the San Diego Habitat Conservancy. Vince Rivas is with the Conservancy.
We manage over 2,000 acres worth of private preserved properties throughout the county, and it's our responsibility for making sure that these properties stay healthy for the wildlife and vegetation that call this area home.
Both organizations will continue to target areas throughout San Diego and are always looking for new volunteers. In Oceanside, Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
NASA's Mars rover Perseverance successfully landed on the surface of the red planet today.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the sands of past life.
Such excitement. The rover's roughly 292 million mile journey was capped off by what NASA called 7 minutes of terror. It had to slow from 12,000 miles per hour to 1 mile per hour in that time, and the spacecraft already sent back its first images of the surface. It's part of a 2-year mission to look for signs of ancient life on Mars. And here's another look at our top story. The Petco Park vaccination superstation will have to close again for at least the next 2 days because of disruptions in the supply chain. Several other sites are also having to make changes, including focusing on second doses. The county says anyone with an appointment during the closure should check their email for when it will be rescheduled. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.